Welcome to Uncommon Analysis. Today, we want to take a few minutes to talk about the special elections that went down yesterday in Wisconsin and Florida. Talk a little bit about the results and what they mean, or at least what I think they mean. And so before I do, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Thanks for stopping by. If you like this sort of content, please like, subscribe, share, tell your friends and neighbors, join the conversation. We're glad you're here. And for our regular listeners, welcome back. Always glad to see a friendly face. Okay, so Wisconsin and Florida had special elections last night. Wisconsin's big election was for the Supreme Court justice. There was a liberal justice retiring, and there is a current 5-4 liberal majority. Excuse me, on the Supreme Court. So this is a matter of holding the Supreme Court for liberals within the state of Wisconsin. A lot of drama regarding redistricting was in play. There were allegations the liberal candidate had promised donors that she would eke out 2 Democratic districts through redistricting court cases. And you had Jeffries and others basically saying the only way they could fix Wisconsin and win is with her winning this to do that. That's not me making up those articles. See a previous post I posted about that a couple days ago. Now, the allegation, whether she actually promised or not, that's an allegation. She apparently met with donors and made that promise. That's the allegation. Whether she did or did not, I guarantee there's no doubt in my mind it was discussed. There's no doubt in my mind that that's why Democrats threw money at this race. That they did. This race cost $100 million total spent, and they won. I'm kind of surprised at the results. Not at the results, as I stated in my previous video, that while the Republican could win, it would be an upset. I am rather surprised that it's remained a 10-point margin. I expected that to be smaller, so my bad. Not only surprising, the Democrat won. They're the party out of power. The party out of power generally does better in off-cycle elections, and it's clearly an off-cycle election. They outspent. Crawford outspent Schmill 2-1. So they outspent. They've got a more motivated base, because that's what it really boils down to with special elections on off years, is really who's got the more motivated base. And when you're the party out of power, you tend to have the more motivated base. But again, I missed the analysis on the margin. I thought the margin would be smaller. I did think it would be inside of 10 points. It looks like it's going to be 10 points. There's like 99% in, and it's right around 10 points. But let's be honest. The doom and gloom, the news, and the doom and gloom being what it is. This article here by New York Times talking about they're going to spin this as a horrible defeat for Republicans. The Republicans were the conservative on this was always the underdog, and they want to make a big deal out despite Musk's millions, which Musk did come in and spend money on this race toward the end. Don't get me wrong, but this is kind of a bogus spin because the liberal judge outspent the conservative judge 2-1. So outspent 2-1. Yeah, Musk brought in some money to help the conservative, but liberals threw their money at this race across the country, and they won. So there's a few more articles like that. If you look at, despite this, yeah, it's supposed to be the end. Like, Trump's the boogeyman. There was one article, I can't remember, I don't have it up in front of me now, talking about how this is the boogeyman, right? Elon boogeyman worked for them. And I'm not saying making Elon the boogeyman had no effect on this race. Obviously, when somebody outside can be targeted coming in, Upper Midwest, and I think most Americans don't like that, but Upper Midwest in particular, that's a good argument. External people are trying to influence us, tell them to go get bent. So I don't think that probably had no play. But the reality was the Democrats had money coming in all over the country, just like they do at every race. So that's certainly things. But let's look at the results. Okay, so in a nutshell, 240, 38,000-ish, plus or minus. A solid win. Breakdown, not unusual, right? Milwaukee, Madison, Eau Claire, might as well be part of Minnesota the way it votes up here in northwest Wisconsin, and then Green Bay and the Upper Peninsula. This isn't overly surprising. This is pretty standard makeup. However, the bright spot, the other thing on the ballot that in Wisconsin was constitutional amendment to require voter ID to vote. And as you can see, that pretty much won everywhere. The only place it lost by any significant margin was, surprise, surprise, the county where the Wisconsin Capitol is. If that doesn't tell you all you need to know, about what's wrong with government today, that in a nutshell tells you. Milwaukee, they eked out, so it's a little off the frame for you. Let me scroll over. Milwaukee, they eked out a 51-49. So even in probably the deepest blue part of the state, other than Madison, you would think this is where it would crush it. No. Green Bay, it lost, and lost big. Eau Claire, lost big. Even up here, the Minnesota, might as well be part of Minnesota the way they tend to vote. 60%, 54%. So the only place it won by any margin was right where the Capitol is, where the politicians are. So no surprise there. This is what needs to be fixed, and this is what voter ID hopefully will start to fix. Milwaukee, like I said, they did eke out just barely a win, even in Milwaukee, which is about as blue as you're going to get in Wisconsin. So this is a huge win, and this shows that the Democrats are in trouble with, I think, nationally with this voter ID crap, because they're on the wrong side of it, and have been for years. It's not been put on the ballot. Every time it's polled, it polls everywhere 60, 70% in favor of voter ID, even in California. And California is going to have the same initiative in 2026, I believe, regarding voter ID. So, and it seems to be supported similarly, 60-40, which is pretty much where most of the nation is. So, big win there for election integrity, hopefully. Loss at the Supreme Court, which will open up the Democrats to appeal the current, because what happened is they appealed the current restructuring, and even though they had a 5-4 majority, this court struck down their appeal. So it stands. But now they've got a new justice, so they're going to try another track to appeal the redistricting and hopefully get more favorable districts for Democrats and take away strong Republican districts. Okay, so that's Wisconsin in a nutshell. Again, takeaways, not overly surprising. Democrat led in the most of the polls. I am a little surprised. I was off. I thought it would be under 10. It's come out at 10. Republicans have nothing to be ashamed of here. This narrative, however, that it's this is a rejection of the Republican brand. I think Jeffrey's out there kind of claiming that. I think it's a load of bunk. And why do I say it's a load of bunk? Well, here, this is a comparable election. This is 2023. So 2023 compared to 2025. So 2023, you had a little over 1 million to a little over 800,000. Look what happens in 2025. You have 1.3 million versus 1.6. So this guy Republicans put over 245,000 more votes in the box than they did in 2023, which was another off-cycle election. That's almost a 25% improvement, over 25% improvement, I think, if I do the math right, in terms of vote totals. So hardly is the Republican brand dejected. They got 245,000 more votes than 2023. They were outspent 2-1. In 2023, the Democrats had power. 2025, Republicans in power, so the Democrats are going to be more motivated. They did put more votes in the box. The Democrats put 280,000 more votes in the box. So Republicans 245,000 more votes in the box. Democrats put 280,000 more in the box, but they outspent Republicans 2-1, and they probably had the more base because Trump and the Republicans are in control. So the doom and gloom articles that are out there, the Republican brand is bullshit, they aren't backed by the facts. I know that's a spin. That's what happens. That's how it goes. Elon's the new boogeyman, and that's going to be their thing going forward. It worked. I don't buy into that. I don't. You can't improve yourself by 25%, being outspent 2-1, and claim, plus having the fact that you're the party out of power and the opposition is going to be more voted to show up, and claim that you found the key to the midterms. I don't think that's true. The midterms should favor Democrats in general, because again, generally the party out of power gets bombed. But that the Elon Musk boogeyman, Trump orange man bad, the Republican brands and crap, it's falling apart. I would not buy into that narrative at all. I do believe they were able to use Musk as a boogeyman. Probably did motivate some of these votes. Like I said, external people coming in, spending money is an easy spin, especially in Upper Northwest. It's not usually something that goes well. Of course, the Democrats were just as guilty of taking external money. All kinds of external money flew into the race. $100 million. Put in respect, this is the most expensive Supreme Court race in Wisconsin history. The next most expensive one was the previous one in 2015. They spent about $50 million combined. This one was over $100 million total spent on both sides. So we'll see. I don't buy that. The big win, obviously, being voter ID required. Okay, let's go to Florida. All right, so now we're in Florida. And this is the nonsense. This is Trump. Now, this is the AP going. The Republicans won Florida special elections, but they're mostly in Trump strongholds and by smaller margins. Well, that's kind of to be expected. So they're going to overstate this. Yes, Trump's on the ballot. We know that when Trump's on the ballot, Republicans do better. This isn't exactly rocket science, right? Trump brings in more voters than a standard GOP candidate in most cases. There are some exceptions where the GOP candidates outperform Trump. But that is not generally the case in most parts of the country and in most districts. So this is AP playing it up. And yes, there's significant differences. They drop by 10 points. They drop by 15 points or whatever. Yeah, 15 points. And this is a drop by 12 points. Okay. Again, not overly surprising that you had probably had a more motivated, again, with Republicans out in power and Democrats out of power. Democrats probably had a little more motivation than Republicans to show up. And Trump's not on the ballot. These are two things we know. So it's not. This isn't to me a big shocker. There was one that was pretty close, right? This guy, obviously, Volusia, was probably the only one really close. Like none of these were inside 10 points. So this idea that Democrats are resurging and the Republican brand is garbage, that the left is going to spin and the media, some of the mainstream media is trying to spin. I think you can ignore this. Obviously, there was something going on in this race for it to be this close. But again, it's more to it, but it still was a win. So they clean sweep. They win by solid margins, still win by very sizable margins, except for this one close call. Now the Democrats are going to crow it up. But they got swept. They got swept in Florida. There's no chance Florida's going to change its direction. I would not hold my breath. Now, things could change. Midterms are another year and a half away. But I would not hold my breath that this is indicative that, oh my God. Yes, I would expect the Republicans will probably not do as well in the midterms as they do in the presidential years for what we just talked about. Trump's not directly on the ballot, and the party out of power generally does better in midterm elections. That's just how it is. And that is even more pronounced on special elections because the motivated are really want to show up. It's a special election. It's off cycle. You have nothing else driving it. So I would calm down if you're getting worked up and worried. Yes, it's disappointing that, the political wins in Wisconsin at the Supreme Court level are going to probably try to gerrymander forcibly districts, which I think is crazy. But don't be surprised if it happens. I don't think that's a savior for the brand, though. I don't think that's, oh my God, we're going to save. Because the direction of the Democrat Party in general is not a good way. Even if they take away 2 red districts and replace them with 2 blue districts in Wisconsin, sure, that isn't good because the party breakdown is so close at the House right now. It could sway the House. It could end up affecting the House election in 2026 and throwing it to the Democrats. But the Democratic brand's in the toilet still. As much as they want to try to tell you otherwise, it's still in the toilet. So that's my take. I think, no, I'm not saying the Republicans should show no concern and just write this off. They have concern. This is a concern they should have had for a long time. It's not something new. When Trump's not on the ballot, they don't do as well. And this is because the MAGA base and the GOP's base, particularly the very motivated portions of both, overlap, but they are not the same. Okay? They overlap. They're not the same. And that's an important distinction that has existed since Trump showed up. And I don't know why the media pretends it's something else. And the Republicans have got to figure that out. They've got to figure out how to convert these MAGA Republicans into conservative GOP voters. And when you put up certain candidates, it's not going to happen. Rhino voters will never pull Trump numbers. Rhino Republicans will never pull Trump numbers. Trump can help drag them over the finish line. He can help them, but they're never going to pull the kind of votes that Trump can pull. If you're a dyed-in-the-wool MAGA guy and you're true to form and you're in the right district, you're going to do incredibly well. But if you're just a generic Republican, country club Republican, Bush-era type Republican, McCain type Republican, Dole type Republican, and in the era of Trump, you're never going to do as well as Trump, ever. And when he's not on the ballot, your numbers are going to be way down. Not just way, way down. So that's my take. Yes, there's some work the Republicans need to do, but it's the same problem they've had to figure out. And that is how to convert the MAGA loyal folks into supporting Republicans. And I don't know how they do that other than clearing house. I don't know how they do that without clearing house. There are districts where a rhino will be fine. There are parts of the country where a rhino Republican will be fine, even with Trump. But there are parts of the country where a rhino Republican is not going to be. There are also parts of the country where a Trump firebrand, without Trump on the ballot, is going to struggle. Because I think that's what you see. This guy's labeled as a Trump firebrand by the press. Now, I don't follow this guy. I don't know. But he's probably a conservative firebrand, which means he's probably more MAGA-ish than a lot of these folks. Which means when Trump's on the ballot, he's going to get benefit from that. The MAGA folks show up. If he's not on the ballot, what did this guy do to get those MAGA folks to show up? I don't know. But clearly, there's work here. Don't get me wrong, there's work here. But this does not scare me. I don't view this as a, oh my God, it's a huge trend. Now, if the midterms show 20-point drops, if the midterms show 20-point drops in deep red districts, then I would be worried. But an off-cycle election, in the current environment, no, this is not something I would. I'm not saying I would totally dismiss it, but I'm not losing mass sleep over it. All right, guys, that's all I got for today. I hope you have a great one, and I am out.